Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to whatever part of the world that you are in. Welcome to today's webinar around with Metabase. And we're going to wait here just another couple of minutes before we get into the content. But while we are sitting here and waiting for more participants to join, we always love to know where everybody is from. So if you would go ahead and type your city that you're joining us from, we love to know what part of the world you are in right now. All right. Hey, Tana. Here we go. Charlotte also, Sacramento and Charlotte so far. So we got coast to coast covered in the U.S. Well, where else are people joining us from? Go ahead and put that into the chat screen, if you would, please. Spokane. All right. So we're going coast to coast here. Anybody from outside the U.S. other than Tanya? And I guess Kim too, who is our helping us out here. All right. Okay. I don't see anyone else putting anything up there so far, but let's go ahead and get started. So again, welcome to today's webinar around scattered metrics to move ready insights. And so this is really an exciting webinar for us because if you remember back in March, we did our annual product pick'em competition where we presented 16 different products that are really startup oriented type companies or fairly new type companies that we believe were tools and software products that are useful for product managers. And after multiple rounds of competition, well, guess who came out on top there? That was Metabase, and Metabase was selected by you, the product management community. So we're really excited to have Tanya with us here today to talk about Metabase and help you as the product management community better understand how Metabase can support the work that you are doing. But before we get into the content, we're going to cover a couple of slides. We're going to do a couple of quick introductions. So Tanya, if you would move on to the next slide, please. So I am Tom Evans. I will be the host and moderator today. And with us is Tanya, and I'm going to let Tanya introduce herself.
Hey guys, my name is Tanya. I work as a product manager at Metabase. Also, I'm angel investing together with Bad Ideas Fund operating in Europe. I'm based in Warsaw, Poland, and have been living here for quite a while. I've been working as a product person, as a product manager, VP of product for many, many years in smaller companies and bigger companies. And I have been always close to product managers and product analysts and people who were making data and making product decisions based on data. So today's webinar probably will help you out I would like to share my experience from all of these years.
Excellent. Thank you, Tanya. Well, let's go on to the next slide, and we're going to do a couple of introductory slides around Productside. So hopefully you're already familiar with who we are at Productside, but if you're not, we want to welcome you and tell you a little about who we are. We at Productside know it's hard to deliver products that people not only use but really love. And so whether it's aligning stakeholders, predicting customer needs, or managing endless backlogs, we've seen it all. That's why we're here to be your outcome-driven partner. We just don't provide solutions, but we tailor them to your unique challenges. We provide complete solutions for transformation. So it's not just about let us train you which is one of the things that we do. But we really want to make sure that we help you take that new knowledge and implement it and get better strategy and execution because of the work that we've done. We tailor our solution. So it's not a one size fits all, but we make sure that our solution is aligned to your company, to your industry, and to your particular needs so that you get the best results from it. And last of all, we are a group of invested experts. So we have a team of consultants that have been doing product management work for a number of years, held leadership roles in many companies. And so we're obsessed about what we do. We love product management. We love helping companies get better. And so that's about us. We're here to support you and help you. And of course, the webinars are one of the ways that we help provide additional value to the product management community. Let's go on to the next slide. So one of the things that we want to do is to always encourage engagement as we go through this. And so ask questions as we go through this. What we would love for you to do is there is a place to, let me go make sure, the Q&A. It's called a Q&A window. And so if you have a question as we go through the webinar, go ahead and put it into the Q&A. And what I will do is I will watch those questions. If there's a question that I feel like should be answered right away, I'll bring that up for Tanya. Otherwise, we'll wait toward the end and answer your questions within the Q&A. Also, if you want to share comments with each other within the chat window as we are going through the webinar, we love to see that too, because that's all about engagement. But one of the questions that we often get is, will I be able to watch this webinar later? And the answer is yes. This is being recorded and all participants will receive a link to the recording via email. And of course, the last thing here I want to do is to say, connect with us on LinkedIn. We have a large LinkedIn community, one of the largest in the product management space, and join that so that you can see what people are talking about, what is being shared around best practices in product management leadership, and be able to connect with and network with other peers in the industry. And so with that, let me go ahead and turn this webinar over to Tanya. And Tanya is going to lead us through this. And I will be, again, moderating and asking questions as we go along. So the first thing is the poll question. So you want to walk us through the poll question, Tanya?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand what is the biggest challenge that you currently have to build analytics reports within your current product. I have some options here, so please pick one and let's discuss.
And this is a multiple choice one. So if more than one of these apply to you, you can go ahead and select multiple one of these. We're getting some responses in there. Let's take about another 5 seconds here. So the options here are around, you need to employ a data team. They never have time. You don't have access to the data. Data is built, or data to build reports is very messy or incomplete. Data sits across different systems, and building the report or a visualization takes a lot of time. Well, I think we've gotten most people. So let me go ahead and end this poll, and I'm going to share the results so that everybody can see those. And so, Tanya, how does this look compared to kind of what you hear from the community that you work with?
Yeah, so I anticipated actually the number one, the need to employ data team to be quite high. And I see that, yeah, it got a big distribution of the votes. Data being very messy and incomplete is indeed a huge challenge that is often blocking nice analytics. data sits across different systems. Also, of course, like in 2025, we have, I don't know, 100 different systems where different types of data can be. And definitely it's like super hard to connect all of this information all together. So yeah, very similar challenges to what I have been having in the products that I was working with. Okay.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to stop sharing that. And I'm just going to add on to it. This is one of the reasons that I'm really excited that Metabase is here to present this because I've been uh, doing training in organizations for a number of years now, 15 years with Productside. And one of the common issues I hear is our leadership wants us to take ownership of the success of our product, but we can't even get it's hard for us to get the data that we need to have so that we can properly manage the business outcomes for our product. And so that's why I'm really excited about what Metabase has done and having Tanya present this, because this really aligns to a big need that I have seen, not just with companies in general, but specifically for product management teams. All right, Tanya, I'm going to let you run with it.
All right. Okay. So yeah, like to continue what Tom has been saying. So a typical data stack of a company, of my previous company where I worked it was a unicorn company, quite a big one, but even when it was smaller, we still had a very massive and very cumbersome data stack. We have a huge data team. We had several tools that moved the data from different systems to a single storage, a single data warehouse. And we used Tableau and Amplitude, like two additional tools on top of all of this data in order to build reports. And Amplitude was used by product managers and Tableau was used by specifically product analysts. The cost of this data stack was huge. You can imagine at least 150K per year. And the cost of team employment that was needed just to manage all of this data and to have people who actually build reports from the data was around 800K per year, even more. So it means that the actual cost of a data team and the data stack becomes a huge burden on the company. And just to be able to make data-driven decisions, it's really hard to scale even further because all of this is super expensive. In comparison with Metabase, where I currently am, we have a very lean data team. We have a data engineer and we have one analyst who performs complicated researches. We do have the infrastructure that is moving the data with Fivetran and Snowplow, which are still expensive. We still pay for Redshift, which is also quite a bunch. But we use Metabase on top for visualization. And as a result, most of data reports and most of analytics is built by the people who are actually making decisions, by product managers, by customer success managers, by people who are actually need the data and need the insights. And yeah, like the cost of the data stack is much lower, and basically the cost of team employment is also much, much leaner versus what you would have in a data stack where people cannot self-serve their own needs for data and for analytical reports. All right. And also, yeah, like you can imagine that again, in my previous company, in order to make a report, you would need to put a task to a backlog of a product analyst. You would need to wait for several weeks for this analyst to get, not to get free because they have other tasks in their backlogs. You would get the first version of the report. You find out that there are some issues with data. The data is not correct. You need to go back and fix it. You iterate on the report and you do this like over and over again. And maybe after a month, you get the final report or a dashboard that you want. And this takes a lot of time. It's very inefficient and it has like a lot of back and forth iterations between the person who is actually using the data and the person who is building it. Metabase, as a comparison, you would open the data source, yeah, assumingly that you have access to it, but you can look at it and you can check that the data is correct or not looking that good already. And then you build the report that you want on top of it. So again, hopefully you can do that by yourself, and then it will take 5, 10, 15 minutes and you can save it and then you can explore it further just by yourself. So much faster, does not require to bother a lot of people, and does not require to employ additional people to build analytics.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
Tanya, I think what you just talked about here, you talked about on the first slide the cost of it. But to me, just the delay that it takes for you to get the data, or the fact that you're not getting the right data and you're trying to make good product decisions, is even the bigger cost. I know that companies that I've worked with have either, we just don't have access to the data. It takes us, multiple weeks for us to pull the data together ourselves and create a report. And I have seen some do what you talked about, is where they have a product analyst, and that product analyst is pulling reports and creating data for all the product management team. But it falls into exactly what you're talking about, is they have a backlog, and you may not get it when you really need it to make the decision. So again, why I'm so excited about what you're going to present to us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tom. Okay, so the agenda for today is that we will go through a sample dashboard that I have built, a sample dashboard that can be applied to any digital product, software as a service product. We will see how to build it live with Metabase. We'll not build all of it, but we'll build some of the charts. I will show what's underneath, like what is the recommended data shape for self-service exploration and for Metabase to be working best with it. And we will also see how you can explore and drill down on the data and find which insights you can find basically using the dashboards and reports you're building. All right. So in order to, like a couple of words about Metabase. Yeah, like Tom already said a lot of things, but basically we're a PM-friendly BI tool, an open source tool that connects to your existing database or data warehouse. So it sits on top of the source of data, not importing any data. So basically connects to what's there. That's why data is always real time. Metabase supports a lot of different chart types, although, like the most common bar and line charts are there, of course. Metabase can also be embedded, but this is like a separate product line, but you can also embed it into different systems, or you can show it even in your own SaaS product if you wish. All right. Before we move on to the dashboard, we also have another small poll. Let's look at this one. So the question is, which metrics you as a product manager are looking on on a daily or a weekly basis?
All right. I think those are pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to wait here for another 5 or 10 seconds to give everyone a chance to put in their answer. And this is a single choice one. So choose the one that best aligns to you. And if you happen to be one that is not looking at metrics that often, or even maybe don't even have access, go ahead and be bold and put that in there if that's a true statement for you. I don't see anyone putting that, but be curious to see whether that's the case. All right. I think we have as many as we're going to get here. Oh, got just a couple more. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And what we see here is that most of the respondents are looking at both revenue metrics and product usage metrics. So that's a really good sign that I see here.
Yeah, true. Like totally agreed. Because I personally believe that product managers should look at both revenue and product usage as much as they can and understand how the usage influences the revenue that the company is bringing. And this is crucial for product managers to understand to make good product decisions. Oh,
Yep.
all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
So,
wasn't sharing it
yeah.
on the screen, but you can see it now that 63% of you answered with both revenue metrics and product usage metrics. So excellent.
Cool. Cool.
All right.
All right, so let's go to the dashboard itself. Like I will have to switch my screens quickly. Okay, so but I hope you can see it. And I also will enter full screen here. Okay, so this is the dashboard that I built in Metabase. Again, this is for a typical SaaS product. Imagine that you are a product manager of a Metabase, a tool that is allowing to explore your data and also maybe to use AI on top of it so that you can get insights. And you're a product manager of this tool and you want to have something that gives an overview of how the product is performing so that you can report to your boss, who is a CEO or a CPO, and who is asking questions all the time about the performance of the metrics or about things that are changing over time. And this is something that you can use. So this dashboard has several sections. It has an overview section on top, which gives an ability to just quickly grasp the key numbers. How many monthly signups do we have? What is our conversion? What is our monthly recurring revenue? What is our number of customers? And for the given months, it also shows how much we're growing. Hopefully, we're growing as a product, not vice versa. The acquisition section is usually like then now we will have a look at the funnel stages of the product. And so as people are moving through these funnel stages, we will be monitoring the key metrics on each stage. And this is like a standard approach. So basically we'll have a section for each of these. So the first one would be the funnel stage of user acquisition. So this is where people are coming into your product. And this is the part of the funnel that is mostly connected to the marketing team. If you're closely working with marketing, you might know that the signups that are coming into your product might be coming from different channels. And if some channels start dominating over time, some less quality channels or high quality channels, that might be a very big influence to the metrics. And so you need to know what is the distribution of signups by the marketing channel. And so here we have a sample chart for that. And you show it over time, and you can also explore these channels one by one or all together to get like the full picture. Then we're moving down, and here we have the next one is usually like a better view at the sign-up flow itself. So different products have different sign-up flows, but in most of the cases, there are multi-step. And for the multi-step flows, you would want to build something that is representing a funnel. So Metabase has funnel charts, but like I personally like the views where you would have these funnels over time. And funnels over time in this case would be the share of people who performed specific steps over the number of signups. So over the number of people who entered the flow. So for example, we have like around 57, 56% of people who after entering the signup verified their email, 24% who chose a plan, because, for example, on sign up, we also have a paywall. You choose a plan there, and then you set up your payment, you enter a credit card, and then you enter the product, right? So basically, we have these kinds of steps. And so once you have the steps, you're able to see how many people did the step, and you can see these gaps between, right? So, for example, between the email verified step and choosing plan, we have a huge gap, meaning that likely we're losing a lot of people here because they, for example, they're scared of the pricing that we're presented, or like they might be thinking, oh, maybe I could have gotten into the product without paying for it, but they saw the price and they decided to drop off, right? And so you as a product manager, you can use these types of charts to optimize basically the funnels, to optimize these drop-offs between them. So for example, you can also see that, yeah, like there are a lot of people dropping off because of email verification. Maybe we can skip it, or maybe we can move it down the funnel and not to lose 40% because people did not verify their email. So you have this like overview of a sign up. Then you also have the overview of how are signups segmented. So usually most of the companies again have their own approach to segmentation. Two, the most simplest ones are one segmentation by the pricing plan if you have several, and if you offer the pricing plans right away on sign up, then you will have the distribution of signups by your pricing plan. So for example, basic is a cheaper plan, so we have more signups with basic plan, and standard is more expensive, so we have less of these. And the second popular way to segment signups would be the use case segmentation, is something that also you can be asking on a during the sign up flow. For example, what is the purpose of you to be using Metabase, and then you are choosing, for example, I will be using it for embedding or for internal analytics, or you don't choose anything. And then you also can see this distribution of signups, and you can see that embedding is not a popular use case and internal analytics is much, much more popular. Okay. So once you have understood your signups, you need to move to, like, people enter the product, and usually when they enter the product, they need to convert. And so before they convert, they need to understand what the product is about. And for that, usually what we are doing is we're figuring out what is the activation metric for our product. I assume that most of you have a definition of an activation metric in your company, but just as a reminder, so activation is a share of new signups that reached the point where they understand your product value and they're taking some meaningful actions. And so this meaningful action is something that you can either you can suggest something, right? So you can say, for example, maybe the most important action for people entering a BI tool would be to create a chart. And then you can all just build a curve of a share of people who created a chart, for example, within 2 days after sign up. And then you can compare this curve with the conversion historically, right? And the retention, for example. And if these curves correlate well, and you can see that just even by putting them on a single picture, you can like use more precise methods for that, but usually that is good enough. And you can understand that if your hypothesis is true, you will be seeing that these curves are correlating well. And then you can say that, yes, for example, this creating a chart within 2 days after a sign up is a good activation metric for my audience. And if you have it, and if you have this activation metric being defined in a very kind of short window after the sign up, it means that it will be able to predict your conversion later on very well. And you as a product manager can either work with this metric to grow it, usually with the help of onboarding experiences and lots of things that you can do during the first session. Or you can also see how it's influenced by changes, again, in the traffic, by the changes in the marketing campaigns, and see like if the marketing team, for example, is bringing in traffic that is not activating well, then something should be definitely changed. All right, so with activation, we're looking at activation again, conversion and retention, and these green bars would be the number of signups. And so you can also see, for example, I don't know that while the signups are growing, if activation and conversions are also growing, we're doing good. Sometimes they will be dropping, and then we will need to investigate what's going on. Okay, so once the customers activated and converted, so they became paid customers, it's time to understand what is their engagement and how do we keep the customers retained. So usually this is again, one of the biggest jobs of product managers is to make sure that the customers who paid are actually using the product. And this is super important because, yeah, like naturally, if people are not using the product, they will be churning just because no one wants to pay for a product that is just not used, right? And there is a benchmark for this audience that is called like zombie audience, right? So zombie audience, the one that doesn't use your product on a monthly basis, meaning that on a monthly basis from your audience that is paying 10%, 12% is not using the product is okay. If it's more than that, it's usually a very bad sign because these people will be churning. And again, this is not something that we would like to be happening, right? So you can illustrate that again here, two simple illustrations. You're going to have a number of monthly paying customers on like a timeline, right? Again, months over months. And you can have a definition of a monthly active customer, monthly active user. I have it here defined as performed at least one product event. It can be different in your case, but again, something that represents activity. And you can also see like if this audience is growing over time or not. And this chart is combining these two things, right? So we have people who performed at least one product event, but over the number of monthly paying customers. And you can see that, yeah, like for example, this number for our product, it was like 50%, not that great, but we did some improvements in March and April, and it started to go up, which is awesome, but it's still like not awesome enough, right? So it's like around 79%, 75, and the goal for us would be, for example, to reach at least 90% so that we have less zombies. Okay, the next visualization is I call it feature leaderboard. So feature leaderboard helps you understand, like get like a very simplistic and very basic view of which features are more popular and which features are under adopted or are not discoverable or people just don't know they exist. So again, like zombie features, right? So and usually you would just have a list of your features and you build a visualization like that. So you have a number of just product events with specific event, just the number of these events again over time. And you can see that relatively to each other, that chart creation is the most popular action in our product. Dashboard editing is number 2. Then we have adding charts to dashboards. Then we have, oh, we released AI, right, recently. So it also became quite popular and this is great. So, but also like you see, it's not growing, right? So, I mean, it's flat. So it might be that AI feature is exciting, but maybe not as exciting. So it's not retaining people well. Right. So basically, you have like this picture, and once you build this for your product, you might be noticing that very often there are like a multitude of features that exist, but again, a big portion of them is used by a very small number of people or by a very small percentage. And for these features, you can either kill them, which is like rarely happens in products, but sometimes does. Or you can think on how you can grow the adoption of these. Maybe these are new features. Maybe these require some additional marketing, product marketing, and you can think of something, right? So again, feature leaderboard in the form of how many events do we have? Oops, sorry, I clicked. Yeah, the number of events that you have just in the total sum of these events over time, then a similar one, but yeah, like for unique accounts. So you calculate the number of unique accounts who do this event and you have it in this form or just in the form of like total values because some of the events are repeatable and some customers will be doing them multiple times over the same months. And also like the visualization that is also interesting because sometimes you will have features that are maybe used less, but they're used by customers who are paying you a lot, right? So you have some features on the premium plans or as on enterprise plans, and you don't want to kill these features, right? But you also like want to get an understanding of how much kind of revenue is associated with the feature. So I'm not calling this that like the feature brought you that much money, right? But you can get, again, a relative comparison for features between themselves. How do they rank against each other by the number of revenue that associated with each of them, right? So for example, here, what we did is we calculated in the way that for each company that did chart created at least once per month, we're adding the monthly recurring revenue from that company into this bucket, right, into chart created bucket. And thus we get that again, money wise, so chart created is the most popular, dashboard edited is number 2, and AI is number 3. So the customers who are paying us a lot, they're like more interested in AI. All right. And moving forward, so we have one more
Hey,
section.
Tanya,
Yeah,
just real
yeah,
quick, two things is one, I want to make sure that we have time to show you how you build out one of these because
yes,
I
yes,
think
yes, yes,
that's
yes. Mm-hmm.
really one of the key selling points. But if as I look at these charts, they're really, there are things that I could get from Pendo or from Amplitude or other types of products. So what's really the difference between Metabase and other products such as Amplitude and Pando?
Yeah, so Amplitude and Pendo, you will be having mostly product events there. in Metabase, you can connect both and you can have like all of these things on the same dashboard. So you can have both product usage and revenue, or for example, chart like that. You cannot build this in Amplitude unless you have some specific additional tracking implemented in a very specific way, right? So yeah, like with Metabase, these things would be possible, and this is also something that is, yeah, like oftentimes the companies are doing. Yeah, like in the monetization section. So again, like since we can combine both usage and revenue, we can also show how fast is our revenue growing, what is the distribution by plans, what is the average check, how many new conversions to paid do we have per week, what is the average revenue per customer, and we can like again explore all of this data all together. All right, so let's, yeah, like since we want to understand
Yeah.
how it's all built, let's go
Before
and
you do
build
that, there was
something.
one other question that came up,
Yeah.
and it was actually from a slide that you showed earlier, where
Yeah.
at Metabase you're using Fivetran for moving the data from its different, I guess silos into a single data lake. And someone was asking why Fivetran. Is that's just for your own your own company decision versus something that is necessarily required by Metabase, right?
Yeah, like I mean, it can be any tool that moves the data. So there are a couple of popular on the market. So there is Fivetran, there is Stitch, and yeah, like I think there is also Airbyte, right? So there are
Mm-hmm.
like multiple of them that are helping you to consolidate the data. Metabase does not provide a way to do that right now. So you have to do a little bit of this preparation. However, again, this is the industry standard of doing things, right? So
Right. Mm-hmm.
in order to have again nice analytics and reports, you have to consolidate the data, and then you can put Metabase on top and explore what you have underneath. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's go into building one of these out now.
All right. So, in order like to build the report like that, so you might have like a lot of data in the company, but the way to organize the data nicely for these types of reports, you usually just need like three well-organized tables, and I will show you these first. So this first one is the table of your accounts or signups, users, like whoever. The important thing is that it has a unique identifier of a user, and it has the columns that represent the key events across the funnel that happened. So the timestamps of these events, of the creation date, cancellation date, payment date, and the segmentation of these signups. So this type of table is also called a CDP, a customer development profile, and it has like this basic columns that are segmenting the customer base, and also can have the flags for activation, conversion, retention, and a couple of monetary metrics inside. All right, so let's try and build something on this one. So Metabase has different ways of building the reports. So you can use Query Builder, you can use SQL if you wish, but it's not required. And you can also use the new capability is to use Metabot, which is like a bit of AI that sits on top of your data. So for this one, for example, we had a distribution of signups by channel over time, and I want this monthly. And the signups are marked as such, where created at is not empty. So yeah, it's like a little bit of logical expression language here as well, but
Mhm.
it's like closer to English than to SQL, right?
It's
So
more natural language than what you may have typically had to work with, right?
okay. Yeah, so I hope it works. So because it's like it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, so this is like basically, yeah, the distribution. So like for each month, it showed me how many signups do we have. So I will make it a little nicer, and I will turn it into a bar chart, and I will display it this way. And here we got the charts that we had on the dashboard that I've shown. So it's like easy to basically save these charts, and I will save it into I will create a new dashboard, um, new dashboard. And yeah, so again, like a couple of clicks and we have a dashboard, right? So we already
Hmm.
started to build it, so I can save it and I can share it by link with people, and they can explore it, right? So this was built in with Metabot. Let's like try a little bit more with Query Builder. So this one, for example, is like a second table that you need is a table of product events. Again, most of the companies have something like that. So it's like coming from Segment, from Snowplow, from RudderStack or PostHog, right? So this events, what happened to the customer identifier and a timestamp and maybe some parameters and stuff. And so for these types of tables, you can easily build a distribution of events by popularity. So this is just general, right? If you want to have it over time, so we're switching to this thing. This is called the query builder. And here we add another parameter, which is a timestamp, and we want to see it by months, and we can visualize it. And then we have, again, the charts that I've shown, a similar one. So this is the distribution of all events with the number of occurrences of each event by months. And if you want to have it by week, you can just click by week, and then you have it here. And you can also, like, if it's not convenient, you can switch to bar charts. If it's too much data, you can limit it. You can limit it, for example, after 2024. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so, and you can also like basically again, save it on the same dashboard that we had. And I will select here the new dashboard and proceed.
Yep. And in neither of these cases did you have to know any SQL, right?
No, I don't. I don't have to. Again, like I said, so it's possible to use SQL since Metabase sits on top of a database. It is possible, but usually we're like advising against that because if you build charts with Query Builder, what you can do is you can click on these charts and you can drill down. So you can, for example, click on all, and you can see all customers that were created on this period and channel is search, and then you can basically explore. So like it allows you to drill down and to see what's inside and to build like again distributions and to be super specific, like if you want to dig deeper into the data.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these are like the couple of examples. Yeah, the third table that I wanted to mention that is important to have is to have a revenue table. So this is again like the structure of the revenue table. This is monthly recurring revenue. Usually there is a table like that that exists and it's built by financial teams very often, and it has the information about how much revenue was recognized for a given customer by months. And it has these components of MRR, so you can also build some interesting visualizations. So again, like having these three nicely organized tables, accounts, product events, and revenue unlocks you to build like a dashboard like that. All right. Okay, I think that's kind of the part with the dashboard showcase and building the dashboard. There is
Mm-hmm.
another piece that you can also see these filters here on top. So I already showed that, yeah, you can switch between monthly, weekly views, quite easy. You can do filters by segmentation. So for example, you can explore things like you want just people with use case embedding, and you want to see what kind of activation and conversion they have. And you can notice that those would have much higher, almost 100%, but we have very few of those. Maybe we need more. So there are like ways to filter these charts. There are ways to drill down, so to click on them and to see what you can do downstream. And there is also like one cool thing that you can do. For example, like if your boss is asking you questions like, why did our activation or conversion dropped in April? And I assume like every one of you heard this question or a similar one from someone from execs, right? And then you would, if you're keeping the history, and in Metabase, you can keep history by using a feature called events. So if you're adding events into like this history box here, you're able to basically then answer these questions, right? So what happened in April? Oh, in April, our sign up service was down. So yeah, like our activation and conversion and everything went down because people didn't have a paywall and we couldn't basically charge anyone. So yeah, unfortunately, we had a problem here, right? Or like, why did our conversion and activation went down in January, right? So what happened? So why are these things going down? So again, if you have some historical events marked down, you can see that, for example, in January, we started to default our signups to standard plan, which is more expensive than basic, and thus people started to cancel their subscriptions because it's too expensive. And then we returned defaulting the sign up to basic plan again because we still wanted people to convert, right? So marking the events, marking the key things that happened to the product, your experiments, your product changes, marketing campaigns, anything that could influence these metrics. If you keep a list of these things, you can later at least understand what happened around the time where your metric had a drop or it grew suddenly, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you can like build investigations around these events. All right. Okay. So yeah, I think this is the part with dashboard overview, live building, and drilling down on events. I think we have one more poll, if I'm not mistaken.
We do.
All right. Let's have a look.
There
Oh,
it
all right.
is.
So yeah.
So yeah, this kind of goes up to what we talked about at the very beginning, where you were talking about some different scenarios and in terms of what people may use already. And so you've put in here a number of different analytic tools that are known out there. So go ahead and put in there which of those you use. Wait a moment here to. Anybody still using just Excel or Google Sheets?
I'm happy to see like no one is doing that.
I
But
don't see anyone putting that in there. So that's a good sign
it's
because I
suspicious.
know as I work with a lot of companies, it's amazes me how much their status quo of how they manage data is still in Excel and Google Sheets. So it looks like we got a group here that is fairly sophisticated. Well, let's go ahead and end this poll and share the results. And interestingly, there's only two here that came up, Metabase and Power BI, of which it looks like we got about there's a sorry, there's some 25% said Metabase, 25 said Power BI, and then the other half said multiple options. So there's multiple things that they're using there. So
Mm-hmm. Okay, you can put this into the chat. Also interesting to see what are the combinations of things that you're using, because this is always comes down to having either a lot of tools and different teams doing their own analysis and different tools. So for example, yeah, like product team is using Amplitude, finance team uses Excel, sales team uses Salesforce or something else. And then
mhm.
and then when you're starting to compare these numbers, so often these numbers do not match, right? Even if we're trying to report on the same metrics, right? So especially like very often with the sales assisted revenue and self-service and whatever. So yeah, this is like a problem that exists. And unfortunately, the only way to amid that is to have something that we're using as a single source of truth. And if you
Right.
have your
Mhm.
data consolidated in like a data warehouse and you have a single tool that manages visualizations and dashboards, you still have chances of like reporting different numbers, but at least you can also see how the reports are built and what kind of data is underneath and what kind of assumptions or filters have been applied. And this is much, much easier to build an environment when people can trust each other's reports.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, and that's definitely an issue I've saw before, is like, if product managers feel like there are multiple versions of the truth out there. So, all right. So we're going to stop sharing the results. Okay.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, like I went through drill down and segmenting, and I think we're like close to wrapping up. And so Metabase has a free gift for you. So this one is a cheat sheet for charts. So the
Mm-hmm.
question is, which chart should I use? If there are some people like in pie charts, please raise your hand because usually those create a lot of controversies. But like the popular ones are bar charts. As a product manager of Metabase, I can tell you that bar charts are far more popular than everything else. So you can download the cheat sheet using the QR code here. And the second one is yes, like if you haven't yet, please sign up to Metabase. We have a 14-day free trial. We also have a
Mm-hmm.
free open source version that you can self-host, and that one is like completely free. So yeah, like lots of opportunities to use Metabase for your company.
Yep. So all of you who are there, except for the one who said they're already using Metabase, this is a great opportunity for you. So to learn a little bit more and see what you can learn from Metabase. All
Yeah,
right.
so mhm.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I
Uh,
just want, please.
Yeah, so we have at Productside we have a couple of offers, and one is for our AI product management class. And so I think all of us are experiencing and seeing how much AI is starting to impact not just our impact our products, but also the work that we do on a day-to-day basis. And I know for myself, I've become a daily user of AI and helping me do my work, and while I even know I can learn some more, this is a great opportunity to start to better understand both how AI can fit into your product and how you can use AI as part of the work that you do as a product management. So as a product manager. So we have a special discount here, and that discount is available here just, I believe, for a few more days. But this is for the class coming up on July the 21st through the 24th. So if you would like to join us for that, please sign up. Yeah, that's that discount is available until July the 17th. So here just about another week that is available. And then we also want to talk about our upcoming webinar. And so we are going to begin a webinar series on July the 23rd. And you see that I am going to be involved in one of those. And the overall webinar series is around strategic planning, because as I talk to organizations, many of them are already starting to do that strategic planning for the next year, or will be moving into that soon. And so we want to share some best practices around strategic planning. And this one coming up is really going to be about the title there says strategy is not a strategy, but we've decided to name it good strategy, bad strategy. So what is good strategy and what is not strategy that we'll be presenting to you. So make sure to join us for that if you would like to learn more. And then just one more slide that we have here. These are some of the upcoming courses. So we already mentioned the AI course that Dean Peters is going to be leading the week of July the 21st. We have our base foundational optimal product management class also coming up at the end of July. And you can see we have several that are in person. So I will be leading one in September in London, and then another one here in Austin, where I live, in December. But we have multiple options available. So if you're looking to up your skills as a product manager, consider those courses. And I think with that, we will go into the Q&A. So if you have questions and you haven't already put those into the Q&A window, please do so. All right. First question here that I have is around just getting started with Metabase. And so how does the comparison of getting initially set up for Metabase compare to other products? What kind of skill sets and what kind of investment do you need to have to be able to get started in using Metabase, and compare that to other products on the market?
Okay. Okay. So to start using Metabase, lots of companies just start by plugging in Metabase to their existing production database. So if you have access to that and you have a small product, probably you can just start with that, and that requires credentials to the database in 5 minutes, and you can connect and you can already see what data is inside, and you can start just building some very first analytics just with that data. Yeah, like if the company is bigger, there is very likely a need to consolidate the data from different systems, like I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, you might be needing additional tools, right? So you need a data storage, a data warehouse, something that can store a big portions of your data, and you need to move it there with the help of this again additional tools, which are called ETL tools. If this is done and data is consolidated, then again you connect Metabase on top of this data warehouse or data lake, and you can get again it up and running in 5 minutes and build your first reports. I don't know, again after 5-10 minutes. In
Mm-hmm.
comparison to other tools, yeah. So I, yeah, it's hard to compare because it's much more complex with Tableau and with Power BI, and not just to have it deployed. You can, yeah, like use the Tableau cloud, for example. But even like to build something simple in Tableau or Power BI, you just need so much more time to learn it and to learn the interface and the buttons and all of these possible options. So usually you would need to have a course in Tableau in order to start building
Mm-hmm.
visualizations. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think what you're saying is once the database connection is made, um, you as a product manager can go and start building your own reports. Where with other type of tools, you might need to have some additional training or actually have someone who has some deeper expertise in using the tool to be able to build up the dashboards or the reports that you're looking to get to. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Another question here, and this is from let's see, that is from Joe. Um, you've talked about this, but what are some great case studies that you have around using Metabase? So, and especially as it's relevant to product managers, can you kind of give a case study around what the situation was before Metabase and what their situation is after Metabase?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, like I brought this example, but basically, a typical picture for our customers would be so there is a big company with, I don't know, around like 50 product managers, and they're trying to scale their analytical functions, and it's super hard. And their current tool, for example, is Power BI, and there is a small team of product analysts that is just struggling with all of the questions and with ad hoc questions specifically, and they cannot give all the answers right away. And yeah, like with Metabase, this transforms into the data team is preparing this data and gives access to data to product managers, and they just build the reports by themselves and live happy after that, not bothering the data analysts anymore, so that they can either focus on more complicated tasks or they can focus on data modeling or data preparation, not the ad hoc questions of, oh, what's the usage of this and that, or what's the revenue of these customers over time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. In your demonstration, you showed using the bot to create a report. And what, from your experience, what percentage of reports could actually be created by the bot versus maybe having to do a little bit more of the individual data selection as you showed us?
Yeah, like it depends again on the organization, and it depends on how big percentage of questions are mostly like ad hoc asks, or like we already have some nice system of metrics and dashboards built out. So, but I can assume that for simple cases, maybe like 50% of questions can be answered by the bot. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, another half probably not, but again, it can be again divided into something that product managers can build by themselves with a query builder or with SQL, because nowadays it's also easy to write SQL with GPT, right? Or you can use again the Metabase SQL writing function, right? So there are like ways to also simplify that work, and also this reduces the number of the questions that are actually super hard to answer to being, I don't know, less than 10%. And then these could be served by people who are trained for data, like data
Got it.
analysts.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I love the bot feature in there because I'm not one that wants to sit down and having to write out a SQL query or having to memorize a bunch of tables or anything like that. And it felt like that would allow us just to do more of a natural language type question and be able to get the results. So very nice. Well, we're at the end of the time setup for this webinar. So first of all, thank you to Tanya for joining us. And congratulations again to Metabase for winning the product pick'em competition back in March. And thank you for everyone who attended. And remember the special offers that were presented to you. Please take advantage of those. And with that, I think we will wrap up and enjoy the rest of your day. So thank you. And thank you to everyone who's joined and participated with us. All right. Have a great day. All right. Thank you,
See you.
Tanya.